Right, guys, hi. So, as part of session 13, we had talked about um, a number of things like the mean, median, mode, and things like that. We had also briefly talked about the normal distribution, so I'm just going to talk about that again because we need this to finish the discussion on what's referred to as value at risk. Right. Right, so I'm going to talk about the normal distribution again very briefly because this is, if you like, the driver of this idea. Right, so first of all, I'm just writing here that when we observe certain sample data events, we notice some interesting points, just things that tend to occur naturally. So, for example, if we go to any city, really, to a city, and take a sample of the height of men or of women in the area, it could be weight, it doesn't really matter. We could observe, we take a sample, if you just randomly took, in this case, if you took 6 plus 6 is 12, 22 people, 22 men, you could get something that looked like this, right? You could get one man who was pretty tall at 6'5", 5 men who were tall at 6 foot, 10 men who were around the 5'10" sort of scenario. And then you're now going the other way where you find 5 men who are, if you like, 5'8" and a man who is 5'5". And this here is referred to as the frequency, the number of people at these heights. Now, we could try and graph this, right? We could try and graph this where we have frequency along what we refer to as the y-axis, and we have the height along the x-axis. And we observe that we saw there, if you remember, that at 5'10", 5'10", we had 10 people over here. What we also observed, if you remember, was that at 6'5" we had just the one person. But we also observed that at 5'5" we also had the one person. And in between this, at sorry, let me just go back and check again. 5'8", sorry, 5'8", we had 5 people. And here at 6 foot, we had 5 people. Yes, and this is 5, and this is 1. So you can almost kind of go across and see what's going on here. Right, that's the first thing I wanted to highlight. So I'm just sort of highlighting that it isn't uncommon to observe this sort of pattern amongst height, weight, scores in a test, heart rate, things along those lines. What you will notice when you look at all these situations is that you will notice a majority of the sample will sit around what is referred to as this sort of mean height or this average height. And we discussed that, didn't we? This idea of the mean, the mode, the median. You know, we agreed that all of these were examples of averages. And most people will sit around this height here in the middle. Right. Now, imagine you decide to capture the entire population. Right. Imagine you wanted to plot in the entire population. You will notice that you'll be having people like everywhere. You'll have people at 5'5" or whatever it is. You'll have people literally. You'll have all these heights sort of happening, if you like, all the way pretty much up till here. You will have more and more heights um, sort of represented. So you'll have people who, if you like, if you think about it, if we start come back to the middle where we had 10 people, you will have people who are maybe just at 5'11", right? Maybe 9. There may be people who are at 5'8". Yeah, I'm sorry. What am I saying? 6 foot, 5'11". Yes, 5'11", and maybe 5'11 and a half. Maybe 8 of them. So what you start to observe is this type of what we refer to as a continuous distribution, because the more people, the more and more people you include in this picture, you start to have a curve that looks like this, right? And this curve, the more and more the population is, becomes balanced or centered equally around the mean, right? That's really the first point. And this mean, we can recognize it, we can call it mu. Let's just call it mu, for example. We can recognize it with the letter mu. So like I say here, imagine you now decide to capture the entire population. You would literally be filling in the gaps along that distribution, and you will have this idea of mu. And I think that's the first point, and I think that's what we're going to do, sort of sit there. And I might break this video up into a number of shorts, but that's the first short I want to highlight. The idea that we can gather data, examine the data, we will observe a central tendency of data sitting around mu, and if we come across, we will be able to observe a normal distribution of almost a perfect reflection on both sides of data around the mean. Okay, so that will be part one of this short lecture.